It all starts on the Tuesday with the Supreme Novice Hurdle. You've won it with the likes of ADJALI and many others as well. Shishkin is the favourite for this year's renewal, around 5-2 with Unibet. Won his last 2 starts over hurdles and hasn't looked back since that fall at Newbury. How confident are you that he can get 7 Barrows off to a winning start at this year's festival?
Well, it'd be nice, because it's always the sort of, it's not the best race of the week. It's one of the most important. They're all Group 1s. It's not necessarily it's not the biggest race of the week, but it's big in a big way. It's the first race. If you can sort of get that under your wing, then the rest of the week is sort of you've it's like getting just that one run on the board, and then you're away. You can sort of get your confidence, and it gets everybody going, and it helps enormously. I mean, I wouldn't think he'd be our only runner in the race by a very long way. I think there'll be quite a few. But
he's looked very impressive, hasn't he? I mean, he bolted up at Huntingdon and probably even more impressive at Newbury. I mean, do you think that he is the real deal?
I think he's a horse with an enormous future. Whether he wins the Supreme this year or whatever happens, his future's in front of him. And, you know, as long as everything goes okay, I think he's a horse with an enormous future, yeah.
You mentioned you may have a couple of other runners in the race as well. You've got ALLART, Son of CAMAS, and CHANTRY House will probably be the most significant.
Those are the first 3 that come to mind, yeah. I think CHANTRY House, you know, we have to, and it's up for discussion with JP, but I can see their point that they have Brother John in the Ballymore, and quite likely would like to split him and CHANTRY House up. CHANTRY House has won over 2 miles. He was impressive at Newbury. It's going to be slow ground. Stamina will be at an absolute premium. So he will stay. And he's not slow. So even if he is forced into this, I'd prefer to go 2.5. But it probably, not surprisingly, I'd like to split mine up. But you can understand JP's point of view. He owns them, and he's perfectly entitled to say, I want to go this way. And it's not unrealistic. Maybe, you know, he's a pretty good horse over 2 miles in his own right. If Shishkin wasn't there, he'd very nearly be favoured himself.
Mm. And you mentioned just briefly your other 2, Son of CAMAS, a possible ran in the Unibet Tolworth Hurdle last time, and ALLART, of course, in the colours of Ronnie Bartlett of Simon Sig fame.
I think they're both very possible. ALLART's he hasn't beaten a lot. He's been very impressive both times, and you know, we've always thought he was. He's had little problems all the way along and niggle, but both times we've got out there this year, he's been very impressive. Well, 3 times actually. He got knocked over at the first on his first run of hurdles at Ascot, but his last 2 runs have been very impressive. Probably beating horses that he ought to be better than, but he's still pretty talented. Son of CAMAS, yeah, you know, he did nothing wrong earlier on. He will stay further, but you know, these horses might not need to go further if the conditions are going to be as testing as I'm predicting at the moment. Anyway,
Dame de Compagnie, we haven't seen her since she scored at Cheltenham in December. How's she been since then?
She's been good. She looks great. She had a good gallop at Kempton on the all-weather when we took the horses there. And, yeah, I mean, we've had various ideas for her all year, but I think this is the most likely target, yeah.
And Birchdale, who reverts to hurdles, having aborted his chase campaign.
He has to. He was very disappointing over fences. His last run was at Ascot, and he was out of the race. I mean, sadly, what would have been one of our best chances of the whole lot, Angel's Breath, who won that very impressively and then cut into himself so badly. I mean, he's at least a year off before he can return. So, but I thought this horse would, at Angel's Breath, they'd be together. They weren't even together after one fence. He was awful, Birchdale, and so we haven't done a lot, and we had little nigglies. So he's come back, but he's working very well. So the chances are he'll appear in here.
And Burrow's Edge, a horse who I think there could still be a little bit of improvement to come from him.
He won the Lanzarote at Kempton, which was a good performance. I know there were fallers at the last, but I don't think he'd. I think he probably might have won anyway. And he worked very well at Kempton. He enjoyed himself. Don't know about how soft he'll take the ground, but he'll be competitive.
Downtown Getaway looked good, I thought, at Kempton at the weekend. How much improvement do you think he sort of shown from that wind operation?
I don't think that was, well, obviously there was, because with him we did do it, because he did make a noise prior to that. So that's obviously helped. I think a lot of things helped. It's the first time he's actually come in with a proper preparation, and you've gone into a race with an element of confidence about it. He's got plenty of ability, but he's also had quite a few issues to go with it, and he hasn't been an easy horse to train. So it was nice to get him into that race. What's even nicer is to have got him back out of that race, sound and in one piece, so that actually he's going to string 2 races together, which he's never managed to do before. As long as everything can go all right in the meantime. I think it's his trip. He certainly handles soft ground. No, he's going to be a nice horse for fences next year, but he deserves to have a chance at this.
He got put at £5 for that win at Kempton. He's now off 136. Do you feel that's sort of quite a fair mark of his ability at the moment?
Well, obviously he had to go up that to get in. I mean, he wouldn't be. He's not certain to get in off 136. Historically, he should do, but we'll see the weights and see where the cut's going to come.
But do you believe
he is in the Martin Pipe as well, so it's possible he'd go that way.
RATHHILL's got quite a few entries, and would you be leaning towards the county hurdle? Of course, we haven't seen him since disappointing over in Ireland.
No, again, he's a talented horse. I think he want to keep him and BIRCHDALE because they're both JPs, keep them apart. RATHHILL might be the sort of one for the shorter distance. I think there's every possibility he'd come into the county.
What do you think went wrong over in Ireland last time? Because he looked a very smart novice, didn't he?
He did, yeah. I mean, it was at the beginning of the year, and it was probably too early, actually.
He was sent off favourite for last year's Unibet Tollwood Hurdle, which I would imagine sort of shows how highly you rated him. I mean, do you still believe that the raw talent is there?
Yeah, it hasn't been a very easy time. I mean, we've had problems since the autumn and he hasn't had a run since. But we're back on track. We're back in one piece. His work's been good. It's probably quite a tall task to come in after without a race of any description, but he's capable, and he's got to go somewhere.
Welsh Saint won nicely last time. He's in the Potemps.
I thought that was a good performance. I was sort of fairly confident about upping him to 3 miles after his previous run at over 2.5, that he wanted further, and consequently, we upped him to 3. That was his Potemps qualifier. He won well, and that brings him into the race. I think he's a progressive horse. He's a nice young horse that will be going chasing next year, but I would like to think he'd have a good chance.
ADJALI is an interesting contender. You've got him entered up in a couple of the handicaps. Just the one run this season. I know you always sort of thought him quite highly as a juvenile, but sort of how interesting do you think he could be off a mark of 140?
I think he looked to be doing everything right early part of last season. He looked to be a high-class juvenile. He then went to Chepstow and just got beaten in the finale over Christmas. That was a very, very tough race for 4-year-olds in desperate Chepstow ground. To be honest, he didn't get over that. But he's been a different sort of person this year. Again, we've had a few stops and starts, but at the moment he's been in very good form. His work's been great. I think he's got a good chance.
And looking at FLORESSA, she was beaten at Doncaster last time, but she'd shown very smart form before that. She's in the mares race. What about the chances?
Yeah, but that was smart form the other day as well. Lady Buttons, and to be fair, she was third. She should have been second. if they'd been the other way around, she'd have got the race probably. But no, it was still a good run. It was no, you know, it was up to her standard, and I think she has a, you know, she's in good form. She's a very enthusiastic mare. She's fresh and very, very well. She's a very slick jumper. Again, not quite sure about her in ground as soft as this is going to be, but there are a few good mares around, but there won't be too many better.
You could be strong-handed in the what was the Fred Winter, the Boodles Juvenile Hurdle now. Let's start off with Palladium, who's done nothing wrong in 3 starts over hurdles.
Yeah, the only thing he's done wrong is win too far. The last time at Sandown, he got clobbered £13 for that. If we'd have sort of kept a bit of a, hiding it a bit more under the bushel, he'd have got £7, and £7 less would have brought him in off a very attractive mark. We rather overdid it, I'm afraid. I think the handicap seriously overdid it, because the only horse that had really relative form in the race didn't show up on the day. There's no doubt about that. He's rated on some very airy-fairy information, I'm afraid. It was it's brutal. I mean, you'd nearly say he'd been better off in the Triumph himself. But you know, he was a horse for the Fred Winter all along, but he's been handicapped out of it virtually.
And if the ground's likely to be soft, that will suit him, because he handled it on the flat.
He goes in it, but I do think he's got far too much weight.
Fraser Island, another entrant for you?
Yeah, he's done nothing wrong. And he had, again, ground I'd be worried. He is he's more of a flat race horse. Palladium's a big, strong horse. Fraser Island, again, he didn't run a bad race the other day in very soft ground. He was second. I just think he's tough, he's reliable, he's consistent. He'll be thereabouts anyway.
And for fans of The Simpsons, they might like to put a few quid on Homer.
Homer, he won his last start at Kempton. I'm not sure what the plan is, but he's in there and could very easily run, yeah.